This one's called Freaky Cloud Shadow. So open up this file, you'll see it looks something like this. The first step we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the layer, Command J or Control J if you're on a PC, and then we're going to go to Image, Apply Image. We're going to change the channel from RGB down to blue in this case. Makes it quite dark and grungy. And that's all we're going to do. Click OK. Now I've already done that, so I'm going to delete that one. Show you this one here. Now I've added a layer mask because I want to be able to rub just that darkness in. So down the bottom here, this icon, third from the left, it's the add layer mask icon. So we've done that, and you can see here when I click on the Alt or Option key and click on the mask, you can see where I've rubbed in. So all I've done is I've gone and rubbed that effect into the image. So I will go B for brush, obviously select the mask, B for brush, and oopsie, turn that on. And you can see there I can brush in the darkness there, but obviously I've only brushed in to make these clouds look like they should. And I've changed the opacity. I've probably dropped the opacity down to 30%. You just build your clouds up slowly, stuff like that, and you can see it working there. The next thing I did is I used a hue saturation adjustment layer, and this one I like to use to try and even out the hues in the image to make it look all similar. I mean, it's fairly even as it is, but just humour me, and let's go and we'll do this one. So we go up to the hue saturation adjustment layer. So you find the icon here, which is this one. As you can see, I'm hovering over it now. Otherwise, you can go down to the bottom of the layers palette and find it down in here. Some people prefer to do that, but I always just go for the icons here. We click on that one, and we're going to first thing we do is click the colorize button, and then bring this hue slider across to about between 30 and 40, something like that. The trick is to actually change the blend mode down to hue, and then that gives you a really even sort of tone. Now if you want to change the color of that, you can make it any sort of color you want, but generally I like the warmer sort of color, so I'll find something that's not too yellow, not too red, sort of in between. It's kind of orangey sort of. And the real trick is to then go and change the opacity of that layer. What I do is I take it right back to 0 normally, and then I just build it up and generally work out, depending on the image, somewhere around 50 to 60%, something like that seems to work quite well. You'll also notice with this image, if you've got any blue skies, it makes the blue skies go kind of black and white, and it doesn't always look good. So it doesn't always work with everything, but it works pretty good. So anyway, I'll delete that because I've already got one here. As you can see, even at the tones. The next one is just to do a hue saturation adjustment layer and add color. And what I've done to this one, if I go in and select reds, I've actually just added some saturation to the red. So I'm only just adding saturation where I want it. Most of the image is red or yellow, so I could add saturation to the yellows, or I have actually added saturation to the yellows as well. And obviously you can season that to taste, so you might want to go back and take the saturation out, but in this case I wanted it to have some saturation, so just in the reds and the yellows. Now the next step is a curves adjustment layer, because when I looked at this image all around here, I didn't think it was dark enough. It didn't look quite finished, so what I've done is I've just darkened up a few more areas. So I've used the curves adjustment layer to do that. So I'll just create a new one to show you, and this is the one that we've done a bit of before, and we click on the icon, we grab this point, drag it down halfway, snap a point in the middle of that curve, and then we can then bring this outside point up and down. Now this controls the saturation, so what we want to do is we want to darken the image, but we don't want it more saturated, so that's obviously darkening and saturating. That's darkening and taking the saturation out to some ridiculous levels. It becomes quite grey, so I find if you just kick it up a little bit, it's usually when it works the best. Anyway, I've done that already. Here, or actually what I've done, I've got the effect there, you can see it's all dark. I want to just invert that mask, which is Command I or Control I, and then I go back using painting with a brush, with a white brush, so X, to change your foreground colour over here between black and white. If your colours aren't black and white, if you hit the D on the keyboard, that's the default to black and white. Sometimes you might find that you might have a grey up and another colour, things happen and it just goes funny, so D is the quick shortcut. So once you've got that, you just go adding, just brushing on there. Again, I'm using a low opacity brush up here, 30%. Don't get the opacity of the brush confused with the opacity of the layer. Two separate things. And then I've just gone over there and just brushed in around the top there just to sort of bring the, make it look a bit more like this, a little bit more cloud there. Just darken the corners a smidgen. So it just sort of darkens it up a little bit. But I've already done that. So I'll show you this one here, which I've already done. And the next thing is I've gone and just done a levels adjustment layer, and that's just to check where my white point is. So if I turn that off, I've just gone and done a levels adjustment layer here, click on this icon, and I've just brought this up slightly. You can see that I can move it up there to before it starts clipping. And if I hold down the Alt or the Option key, you can see now where the colors are starting to clip. So I'm only just bringing it up to a point where it's just about to clip, but it doesn't. So it's only just a slight adjustment. So I've done that already. I'll delete that layer, and that is the finished result. So if you hit the hold down the Option or Alt key and click on the eye and the background layer there, you can see before and after. And we're just basically trying to simulate the effect of being in a plane and looking down, and there's clouds behind you casting shadows on the ground. Thanks for listening.